Thank you for joining us for today's virtual event on the Transcontinental Partnership of the Blue Azores Program. This session is being streamed on Facebook and will be recorded. My name is Emmanuel. I'm the site manager of the program and will be moderating today. Today's event is a part of the All-Atlantic2021 Conference, which brings together different ocean stakeholders to share knowledge and innovation around the global effort for lasting ocean sustainability. We are excited to have with us today a representative from each of the three founding Blue Azores partners. We are going to discuss with them how this current partnership came to be and address some of the challenges to come along with implementing a program like this. We'll also explore some of the ways that the Blue Azores uses science, policy, and engagement with civil society to protect the Sea of the Azores. If you'd like to put some questions, please use the Q&A session. We'll probably not have time today to answer those, but we'll make sure we follow up on them after. Firstly, I would like to introduce our panel participants. From the Regional Government of the Azores, we are joined by the Fisheries Regional Director, Alexandra Garcia, who is tuning in from the Azores. Alexandra has over 2 decades of experience in the field of ocean science and technology. She currently leads a team to manage the use, conservation, and protection of fisheries and aquatic resources of the archipelago. For today's event, Alexandra will be sharing the perspective of the Regional Government of the Azores in the Blue Azores Partnership. Thank you for joining us, Alexandra. Next, I would like to introduce the Executive Director of the Waitt Institute, Catherine Manjerick, who is tuning in from San Diego, California. As Executive Director of the Waitt Institute, Catherine leads a team of ocean experts in developing and implementing Blue Prosperity programs like Blue Azores, including marine spatial planning and blue economy projects. She brings more than 20 years of ocean expertise to her work, combining marine science, law, and policy. Thanks for joining us, Catherine. Lastly, I would like to introduce Emmanuel Salves, Chief Scientist and Board Member at the Oceano Azul Foundation, who is joining us from Lisbon. Emmanuel has decades of experience working in the creation, monitoring, and implementation of marine protected areas. He is an associated professor at ISPA, Instituto Universitário, and Vice Director of MAR, Marine and Environment Science Center. Emmanuel also participated in the 2 scientific expeditions that kick off the Blue Azores program, which we will get into shortly. Thank you for joining us, Emmanuel. I would like to start this discussion by understanding a bit more about each of the partners and then move on to learn about how the program came to be. Starting with you, Alexandra, how does this program fit into the goals of the Regional Government of the Azores?
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the invitation. It is an honor to be part of this roundtable and have the opportunity to talk about the main advantages to the regional government of the Blue Azores program. And replying to your question, Andrea, as we know, Azores is an archipelagic region, which livelihoods, economy, and cultural identity is deeply connected to the sea. There are about 50 fishing communities whose the main source of income comes from the sea. The Azores fishery are typically characterized as being artisanal and small scale in nature, with a multi-segmented fleet targeting multi-species with a wide range of fishing gears and methods. For the regional government, it is a priority to take measures in order to avoid overfishing, caused either by a high number of fishermen or by an unsuitable fleet considering the existing resources. Therefore, the proper management of our marine resources is extremely important for us. In 2019, the regional government announced the Blue Azores program in partnership with the Oceano Azul Foundation and Waitt Foundation. Blue Azores will be a path for the regional government of the Azores to protect and sustainably use the Azorean Sea through the development of marine protected areas. It will be also important for us, the sustainable fisheries, of course, and to support our small-scale fishing communities, particularly first, maintain the target species at or above the levels necessary to ensure that continued productivity, minimize the impact of fishing on deep sea habitats and on target and non-target associated species, maximize the net income of the fishermen and employment opportunities for those who depend on the fishery for their livelihoods. And finally, intensify fishermen training. So briefly, with this program, the region aim guarantee the conservation efforts, transforming our economy in a more sustainable and prosperous one.
Thank you all. Thank you, Alexandra. Catherine, would you give us some background on the Waitt Institute and share with us how Blue Azores is an example of some of the work that the Waitt does around the world?
Sure. Thank you, Andrea, and thank you all for joining today. I'm super happy to talk about the work of the Waitt Institute and tell you a little bit about how we ended up working in the Azores, given that we're based in San Diego, California. So the Waitt Institute is an organization, a nonprofit organization that was founded by Mr. Ted Waitt, who prior to becoming an ocean philanthropist was the co-founder of Gateway Computers. As a former businessman, he believes strongly that we can achieve both environmental and economic well-being. It's not one or the other, but we have to achieve both if we're going to achieve a sustainable future. So that concept is central to the work that we do and how we work. I will say that we have a sister organization called the Waitt Foundation. The Waitt Foundation provides grants for the work that we do. And then the Waitt Institute, which is the part of the sister organization that I'm the executive director of, is a nonprofit that works in partnership with governments and communities to help achieve the concept that we call Blue Prosperity. So we focus largely on technical support and also provide financial resources in these types of programs. So the question is, what is Blue Prosperity? And we think of it as being the central approach for achieving ecosystem, economic, and community well-being. So once again, it's not one or the other, but all of these things are necessary if we're going to achieve a sustainable and resilient future. We also work within that context on helping nations achieve 30% marine protection and 100% sustainable management of our ocean and ocean resources. So as I said, a big part of what we do is focused on the technical components, and we work in 4 core areas: marine spatial planning, marine protection, blue economy, and sustainable fisheries. And those are all interconnected and related components of work. And I'll just briefly highlight a couple of pieces of the puzzle there. First, marine spatial planning, for those of you who aren't super familiar with it, is essentially a land use plan for the ocean. It's a map-based approach to help people think about how to utilize the ocean, and done right, it can help identify places that are important for protection, areas for human use and development. It can help reduce user conflict. So if you have 2 different stakeholders who want to use the ocean for different purposes, through a process of marine spatial planning, you can help identify what the right path forward is for a given place. And it can help provide regulatory certainty. So once again, marine spatial planning can be used for both providing economic benefits, but also providing the protection that a nation needs for its resources. Blue economy is also part of that concept, and it's the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods and jobs, while preserving the environment and the health of the ocean ecosystem at the same time. And I would just highlight that last part. It's not about industrialization of the ocean, but how, again, do we design sustainable ocean ecosystems and design sustainable economies in a way that allows the resources that we have today to also continue to be there for our children and our children's children and so on into the future. In addition to the work of our team, so the Institute itself is a fairly small organization, but it's important for us to harness the expertise of local and international organizations. So that's part of what we bring to bear. And another component that I would say that's really important to how we work is to support both a science-based approach and one that involves the participation of the communities who are affected by it. As Andrea indicated, we work around the world. We work with island governments. The Azores is one of those places that we work. We also work in the Atlantic in Bermuda, which is nice. We've got sort of two parts of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge that we have the opportunity to support, as well as working in some other places. And I'll just pause there and look forward to the continued conversation.
Thank you, Catherine. Emmanuel, would you tell us a bit about the Oceano Azul Foundation and why is it so important to protect the Azores?
Thank you very much, Andrea, and a pleasure to be here with Alexandra, with Catherine, and with all the attendees in this event. I'll start maybe by saying that the Oceano Azul Foundation is a new organization of an ocean conservation organization based in Portugal, but with an international DNA. That shares this vision that in order for us to have more sustainable human development, we need to have more nature, and we need to have a more healthy ocean. And so this is part of our, this is the basis of our approach, as it is our motto from the ocean's point of view. So we always try to find the solutions that we need to implement or to promote as if we were, if you want, an ocean being, an ocean animal, looking at if those solutions make sense or not from this point of view. The second thing I would like to say is that our approach is fully science-driven. So we always try to bring the best knowledge to the table so that we understand where we are, we understand which are the problems that need to be solved. Also, science-driven in terms of the solutions. So what are the best approaches, the most cost-effective, the ones that would drive us close to the objectives that we want to achieve together. And this brings us also to the need of these solutions having scale so that they can be transformative. And because we are facing a very particular moment in time that I can discuss a little bit further afterwards, we also need innovation to be at the center of these solutions, because we know that if we continue to do things the same way, we should not expect a different result. And we know that we have these problems because some of the actions in the ocean have not been sustainable. The Oceano Azul Foundation bases its approach on three main concepts, which are a blue generation, which is a concept where we bring our education program centered on the first cycle of education in schools. It's a teacher training program on oceans that we believe it's where we are working on the scale of a generation, because we need leaders, we need decision makers, we need politicians, we need scientists, we need citizens which are much more aware of the role of the ocean and the importance of the ocean in our lives. We have a second concept that we developed, which is the concept of blue natural capital. And this is where we bridge, if you want, marine conservation we work on marine protected areas, but also on sustainable fisheries with the blue economy, because we also firmly believe that, as Catherine was saying, these two things are not one or the other. On the contrary, we can have a thriving nature and a thriving economy if we promote the right solutions. And so the blue natural capital is a concept that we believe needs to become mainstream, and needs to become mainstream in the cost-benefit analysis of decision makers. So we need to have on those cost-benefit analysis the value of nature, because this is where we think we will stop destroying it and we start protecting it as a value that it is. And finally, we work around the concept of blue networks, which are essentially working on the international processes, both at UN level and European level, with partners such as the ones that we have in the Blue Azores partnership. why are we in the Azores? For obvious reasons. We are, of course, a Portuguese-based organization, although, as I said, with an international framework. But the Azores is a unique place, I would say, in the universe. It's a unique place in the Atlantic for sure, but it's a unique place in the planet because it's right in the middle of the longest mountain chain in the world. It has very unique ecosystems, altogether very closed, very accessible, and very unique representatives of life on this planet. But it's also an ecosystem and a system that it's fragile because it's so far away from mainland, it's so isolated. The changes that we are seeing happening in the ocean have strong impacts there. And finally, because of those changes, is a system which is under threat. And this is why we are also trying to partner with the government in the Azores and our partners of the Waitt Institute to bring solutions to those challenges.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I am wondering that our audience might be thinking, what exactly is the Blue Azores program and how did it came to be? Catherine, could you explain the mission and core objectives of the program?
Sure, I'm happy to. And of course, this will be a little bit biased because it will be from the Waitt Institute's point of view on how it came to be, but I'll give you a little bit of that and then what the core components are. The partnership really started prior to signing an MOU in 2016 when we supported and worked in partnership with Oceano Azul and other scientists to undertake an expedition in the Azores to conduct research and explore the underwater world that is the Azores. We then partnered again in 2018 for additional work in the water. And really that was the inspiration for the Waitt Institute's engagement in and in wanting to work in partnership with the government of the Azores. For those of you who have been there or live there, it's one of the most remarkable places. And I would say it's really a global, a place of global importance, not just a place of local importance. It's an incredible ocean with amazing resources. And so that was, a key reason for us to want to work there. But even more important than that is working in partnership with governments and communities who are interested and have the same goals that we do. And so that was another reason that we're here and working now, and is a central reason. So in terms of our partnership, the first step for us is to establish a memorandum of understanding that lays out the core components of our work. And we did that by signing an MOU in 2019. And it lays out an ambitious agenda, and we have a lot of work to do. But I think that it's really inspiring. So in 2019, the MOU that we signed has several key components. One is that the agreement to support the Azores in declaring 15% of Azorean Sea as new fully protected marine reserves. It includes implementing management plans for new marine reserves as well as for all existing marine protected areas. So currently the Azores has protected about 5% of its ocean. The other component is to support the adoption of a legally binding marine spatial plan, and that goes hand in hand with the marine protected area system. So the marine spatial plan helps think through how the ocean is going to be used by humans, as well as thinking about what areas need to be set aside for the long-term sustainability of the resource. Another component, fourth core component, is to improve fisheries management. And then there are quite a few supporting activities that are also central to the work that we do. That includes supporting scientific processes, communications and outreach, legal assessment and development, as well as implementing a Blue literacy program for schools in the community. So as I said, it's an ambitious agenda, and our overall goal is to complete this portfolio of work and be well on our way to implementation by early 2022, but really to be working in partnership over the next several years to achieve these objectives.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Alexandra, why is this program important to the region?
So for the regional government, as you know, or probably know, that we has been working too hard ocean conservation for a long time now. However, we consider that this partnership is an opportunity to have a highly graduated team specifically dedicated to the program, which will accelerate the process. It means that to reach our goals for conservation, working to have a conservation plan for all the Azores easy. Although there has been a long history on scientific research about deep sea ecosystems in the Azores that give us important knowledge, there still exist some fundamental gaps mainly to develop policies that promote the sustainable use of our natural resources. So we consider that the main advantage of the program for the region are to define concrete goals and deadlines, as well as provide a roadmap to achieve real ocean protection and sustainable growth for the Azores. In fact, this international partnership focuses its effort in, first, develop solid science to inform, as Catherine said, to inform the implementation of marine protected areas, speed up this implementation, responding to the urgency of our needs. It means protect marine resources and their habitats, and support the development of management plans for the main target species, and finally support the acknowledgement of these MPAs by the European Union, protecting the interest of local fishing communities. I think it's globally is this.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. So we could see that Blue Azores has initiative across several different areas, from science to law to education, which can make it difficult to categorize. As it is a partnership with the regional government of the Azores, some might see it as a political program because it involves the scientific community. Some might see it as a scientific program. Emmanuel, how would you categorize the Blue Azores program?
Thank you, Andrea, for that question. Well, I think Alessandra explained this very well. I think this is a program which is serving the goals of the Azores government, of the Azores region, in trying to bring change, bring a transformative approach where everyone will be pulled out together to work for the same purpose. And so there is this common vision by the partners of this program, but truly the partners of this program are just the activators of this change. And so we see this program actually as a development program for a region that has long shown that they are at the front line of the best science that is made in the Atlantic and throughout the world, but also some of the best solutions for ocean protection and ocean conservation. And so we believe that we can use this willingness to work together to speed up these changes and to bring this notion of the protection, the promotion, and the valuation of blue natural capital as a central piece based on science. Because having this science at the service of these solutions for the development of the region will bring, we believe, more sustainability to the activities that are done in the ocean, but also more economic development, more wealth, and in the end, more happiness for the Azoreans, if they need more happiness, because I believe the Azoreans are very happy people because they live on one of the best places to live in the planet. But so, yeah, I would categorize this as a truly partnership where we have a common vision and we are working for a common purpose. And we hope that everyone understands that by bridging with this program, by being on board, by supporting the solutions that the government is trying to implement, we will have a much stronger way of achieving the results, and we need to achieve these results fast because we know that the ocean is changing, and we need to bring this change to the solutions of the daily life of people, such as in the Azores.
Thank you very much. Science is clearly a central component of Blue Azores. Emmanuel, can you explain a little bit more about how is science informing the program?
Thank you, Andrea. I think that's also a very key piece of this program, and actually of our approach. And I believe it was clearly explained also by Alessandro of the government approach. Why is science key? Science is key because on the first place, it's very difficult to show to the common citizen what's happening in the ocean, because this is outside our daily lives. It's outside our view. Usually we don't know what's going on. And so by supporting science, we are supporting knowledge, and we are bringing that knowledge to society. We are bringing that knowledge to decision makers. And so we are capacitating the solutions and the policies better by doing that. And this is the reason why we started with these scientific expeditions that Catherine was explaining, where actually the Azorean scientists were involved from the beginning in these expeditions. They were leading parts of those expeditions in the areas of expertise that exist, so that we can pull all this information together again for the solutions that the Blue Azores is trying to promote. And this partnership, again, is a key word here, because science, it's not possible to do science without partnering. It's not possible to do science. Well, it is possible, but it's probably not so useful, that type of science, if we just keep it in our scientific papers, in our ivory towers, or in our drawers in some cases. So I think it's very important to bring this science to the public. And this is what we try to achieve with these scientific expeditions that we did together with the local scientists, with the government, with the partners of the program, because we can show in a short time, if you want, we can display all the knowledge that has been gathered for many years that is being put together, but also we can translate part of that knowledge. And this is where we bring also films, we bring outreach, because that knowledge is immediately displayed to people that understand why is the Azorean government trying to do some of these things, such as marine protected areas. Why do we need them? Why should we support them? And so this very, very strong focus on solutions need the best science, because of course there are different avenues, but some of those avenues probably will not give us the results that everyone wants. And I think that it's clear that those results try to achieve two things. We try to have more nature, and we try to have more human development. And we firmly believe that this is possible, but we need to bring these transformative changes and bring these science supportive solutions, so that the science can, one, be translated so that people understand what is the issues at hand, what are the issues, what are the solutions being promoted, but also because this is the main driver of the policy. This is the main driver of the change. We know that we are in the decade of ocean science of the United Nations. So we have 10 years where there will be a strong focus on oceans, mainly because also we know that we have 10 years to solve the climate emergency and also the species extinction crisis. That is the recent reports by the United Nations panels have shown us. So in summary, science is a key piece of the Blue Azores because it's the willingness of everyone, and because we have a science of excellence in the region. We have partners that can capacitate some parts of the implementation of the program, and by working together, we'll have more efficient and stronger solutions for what we are trying to achieve together.
Thank you, Emmanuel. So following the two scientific expeditions that brought together these different international entities, the Blue Azores Program was developed and launched. We'd now like to understand how a partnership like this works in uniting different sectors. Catherine, what are the benefits of a partnership that brings government and non-profit organizations together to build sustainable blue economies and lasting ocean protection?
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, so both are essential. So there's two pieces of the puzzle here. One is the role of governments, and two is the role of nonprofit organizations. And I would just say, I would add to that, thinking about non-governmental organizations. So not just nonprofits and foundations, but also academic institutions, which play a central role in this kind of work. Emmanuel noted that this program is serving as an activator of change. And I think that that's really important, because what we're trying to do is not, we recognize that our work and our role is to get things moving, to help facilitate a program or a process. But really, it's the people of a place and the governments of that place that are going to be there through the long haul, and to take something, the concepts and the ideas and the programs, and really institutionalize them and make them a reality. So if we start with the government in terms of this puzzle and the role that government plays, of course, the ocean, for the most part, in almost every place around the world, is publicly owned. It's not a private resource, but it's a public resource. And that means it's the government's responsibility to manage the ocean on behalf of its people. So the government is responsible for the decisions about the ocean, for ensuring that it's regulated in a way that serves the public good and the public needs. Because of that, and because of the important role that governments play as it relates to the health and well-being of the ocean, we only work in places where we have a partnership with governments. We ourselves can't make that change. We rely on the leadership of governments to make those changes. We can provide information, though, and I think that that's what, when we think about the nonprofit sector, the role of academic institutions, NGOs, and philanthropies, we have the opportunity to support those governments who are being leaders in this space. In many instances, governments don't have the technical or the financial resources to undertake or develop these kinds of programs. Or if they do have the resources and the skill, they may not have the time or the capacity to help design and implement one of these programs. And this is where we can provide support. We bring together both process experts as well as technical experts that can serve as resources for the governments and for communities. And I'd also point out that while we ourselves are outside organizations, and we bring outside organizations to bear in terms of expertise, we also rely heavily on local expertise. The communities themselves know and understand the resources. In the Azores, we have the great advantage of having the University of the Azores and incredible local scientific expertise that is crucial for our understanding of the ocean and its resources. So where we can add additional value is in some of these processes, in designing systems, in bringing some what we think of as toolkits or analytical tools and processes to bear in the process. And the third thing that I would add, which is not your question, but I'll add it, is communities. And it's crucial for communities also to play an important role in these processes, because once again, they're the ones who are utilizing the resource, who are depending on the resource for their future. So we need to ensure that our processes include them. And we engage communities through steering committees, community outreach and education, and also through consultation. So in essence, I think that NGOs and academic institutions and foundations can help fill the gaps and help facilitate the processes. But really, we rely on the leadership of the government to drive these home and to institutionalize the change and ensure that it's not just plans on shelves or lines on maps, but that that they can carry the programs forward to create the real change that we need.
Thank you, Catherine. Now that we discussed how the program came together, I would like to pause and remind there's some questions coming on the Q&A section. Please make sure you identify yourself so that we can follow up on these questions later, because I'm sure that we won't have time to do it while in live. I would like to move on this webinar by understanding some of the challenge presented to the success of Blue Azores. So from each partner perspective, what would you describe as the biggest challenge in implementing this program, and what would be your approach of how the partnership could overcome it? Manuel, let's start by you.
Okay, Andrea, thank you. I think that one of the big challenges is to pass the message that these programs create a huge opportunity, because they concentrate in time, if you want, something that usually the governments are doing anyway, but they are doing at different paces. And by partnering together with these ideas, with these plans in a specific timeline, we create a great opportunity for change. And since we are fully aware of the scientific basis of the challenges that we have ahead in terms of ocean conservation, this change needs to happen at a certain speed. And of course, this is also a challenge. And this is why in these programs, we always base them on concrete goals to achieve at concrete times, because, you know, we have to face it. We are losing the war against the degradation of the ocean. And so we need to invert that. And the ways to invert that, we believe, is through these partnerships, is through bringing everyone together, working for the same purpose. So I would highlight as one of the challenges these two things: the change that comes at a certain speed that many times is different to bring everyone together and to make them work together for the solutions. But being that a challenge at the same time is a great opportunity, because it creates this movement that we think that it will last after the program finishes, if you want, because as Catherine was saying, these solutions will stay in place and this transformation will happen if we succeed, as we hope we will. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. Alessandra, let's hear your perspective.
So I think it is, in my opinion, it is essential to disclose and explain the motivations that lead to the implementation of the program. Concerning the fisheries, for example, we should involve the fishermen throughout the process, emphasizing and giving the importance and the short-term benefits of the Blue Azores program. I think globally is that. I think it's important to involve all the stakeholders in all the phases of this process.
Thank you, Alessandra. Catherine, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'll build on that and say that I think that in a program like this, one of the core parts of it, as we've talked about, is engagement. It's us, our organizations themselves engaging with each other. It's about relationships and building trust and building partnership. And those things typically happen best in person and in a way that we can interact together, engage with stakeholders to be able to really facilitate their participation. And COVID, I would say, has made it extremely difficult to be effective in building those relationships, in enabling engagement in the processes. So I would say that we've been hampered over the last year in particular, and it's forced us to engage in different ways. So, you know, we spend a lot of time on Zoom calls now. I think that we're all collectively learning how to engage and learn through these platforms, but I'm certainly looking forward to the day that we can all work together in person and really engage with the communities.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Alexandra, how can we communicate the benefits of Blue Azores to the Azorean people? How to create these connections that we've been talking about, particularly with fishers, who are one of the program's most relevant stakeholders?
So, considering, oops, you are listening me?
Yes, yes.
Considering that one of the main actions of the program is to work with the community that Blue Azores serves, I think it is essential to develop a transparent connection with them, with this community that Blue Azores serve. Considering the fisheries, I think the direct relationship with our fishing communities will be a key to show the Blue Azores listen and works closely to them. Part of this connection can be done through ocean literacy at schools, explaining the importance of the living in balance with the ocean. And for them, the children spread this message to their families and friends. I think it is also important to highlight the benefit for fisheries, as well as the need for the actions that we intend to do. Resuming the implementation, I think the message is that one, and show that the implementation of well-managed MPAs will lead to ecosystem recovery, which will have benefits, and it should be seen as a gain and not a loss. So it's more or less like that. I think it's important to pass that message. It could be a gain and not a loss. I think is all.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. So we've been talking a little bit about this engagement with societies. Basically, we're talking about bottom-up approaches, but Blue Azores started as a top-down approach. So, Catherine, what are the benefits of each one of these approaches to implement this program?
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. And I think we've all highlighted the needs of both, but maybe I'll dive in a little bit deeper on how we think about it. So, so both, of course, are necessary. You need top-down leadership, you need governments to act, but you also need communities to engage and communities to demand change. Often there's the ocean stakeholders themselves that are very specifically deriving an economic benefit from the ocean. But there's also many people who derive benefits from the ocean that are less tangible. Rather than a paycheck, they spend their weekends at the beach, or they spend their recreational time in the water, or it's spiritual for them. So those are also really important values and uses of the ocean, in addition to the economic benefits of the ocean. So if we think then about, say, establishing a marine protected area network, and all of the actors that it takes to make something like that to succeed, you need scientists to collect and share information, as Emmanuel talked about. You need to understand what's out there and the status of what's out there, and consider what's the most important, unique, special resources that are crucial for to protect. But you also need to understand how people are using that ecosystem. And you need to understand how, for instance, a tourism operator values the resource and what the most important places are for them to visit, how fishers value the resource and the areas that he or she can catch the most fish in the shortest period of time. And sometimes those are overlapping, or sometimes those may be in different places. So you need to be able to engage communities so that they can share that information. But you also need them to be a part of a process, to be able to voice their concerns and desires, because at the end of the day, you have to have their buy-in in order to achieve the compliance with the program. And it's the constituents of the government, right, who help guide governments in their decision making. But you absolutely need leadership. You need governments to make those hard decisions, because a lot of times it's very, it's easy to think about the short term and the short term gains that you can get from the ocean and the economic rent you can derive from it. But if you don't think about the long term, 10, 20, 30, 50 years out from now, and what you want that resource to be like, you'll end up degrading resources, as we've seen repeatedly throughout time. So yes, I think both are crucial, and hopefully we have designed a program and are working towards a process that is inclusive of both.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Picking what Catherine was saying, and I'm turning now to Emmanuel, that has been working on ocean protection for decades now. What is the current state of the ocean? What are the risks of not doing nothing? And why are the scientists telling us that we should protect 30% of the ocean by 2030?
Okay, thank you, Andrea. I think that I believe we live in a unique moment in time, because we cannot say that we don't know anymore. We have the science that has been developed in the last decades that is clear, showing us the problems. So we know that we have an ocean that is becoming warmer. We know that ocean is becoming acidified. We know that oxygen levels are decreasing. We know that human impacts in the ocean ecosystem bring us to these numbers of only 13% of the ocean being considered as intact, and more than 60% with high impact. And on the numbers of fishing, we also know that we have decreasing trends in several regions of the world. So we have the information that tells us what we need to do in order to have change. So we cannot claim anymore that we don't know. Being said that, there are, of course, lots of areas in the ocean which are still unknown to science. And so science is still key for us to understand how this system works, and even to understand how many species are there, because we don't know. We have these estimates still with large question marks about many of the ocean creatures on the planet. But we cannot wait to understand everything about the ocean in order for us to move forward with action. And so we need to act, and we need to act now with the information that we have. And essentially, I think that we need to understand that choices matter. And now we have a number of solutions in front of us, a number of alternatives in front of us. And the costs of action are, and has been shown over and over again by science, are much lower than the costs of inaction. So if we don't do nothing, we know what is coming. We know that we'll have less resources. We know that we'll have more difficulties for fishers. We know that we'll have less fish in the ocean. We know that we will have a much more difficult planet to live in for our kids and for our children and grandchildren. And so this is the cost of inaction. This is the cost of doing nothing. And this is why we need this transformative change, because although we have been talking about solutions for a long time, the scale at which these solutions have been implemented and the effectiveness of those solutions is still very low. So we need to change this, and this is where we must focus our attention for this transformative change. The 30 by 30 target, which means that countries are negotiating now this idea of having 30% of the ocean protected in fully or highly protected marine protected areas in 2030, is again one of these targets that are important to move the international agenda. But I believe it's more important to think about protecting the ocean today and not just waiting for 2030, because what we have seen before on the 2010 targets, on the 2020 targets, is that on one side we haven't achieved them, and on the others, countries are rushing to try to go after those targets on the eve of them finishing. And I think that's not, I mean, those lessons should be enough for us to change. And so we need to go after that target, because it's very important at the political level that there is an agreement that we need to bring this change now. But we should not wait for 2030 for sure. And this is why programs such as the Blue Azores are trying to lead this agenda. They're trying to show the way to others on how to do it. I would just maybe very briefly touch on an additional point, which is this one. What we have been trying to do so far is to think about the ocean as essentially a free-to-take area with everything can go, anyone can do whatever they want everywhere. And then we try to close some areas to protect the special places in the ocean. And we haven't been very effective in doing that. So we need maybe to rethink this approach and to bring scale. And this is where I think the 30 by 30 will come in. But of course, we also need to take care of the rest of the 70%. We need to take care of what's going on the areas which are not inside these areas of protection. And we have to bring sustainability to all activities in the ocean in the end, where this network of marine protected areas are the natural banks. This is where we have our natural capital. They will rebuild nature, they will rebuild fisheries. And so this is where we will have more economic activity, more ecotourism, but at the same time, more fisheries happening outside these areas. And so a healthy ocean will require a network of these protected areas.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that in the Azores will be an example, a good example, and we will not wait for 2030 to have this amount of protection. So as we approach the end of our event today, I would like to ask Alexandra, how do you see Azores in 2030? You need to unmute, Alexandra. Thank you.
Yes. So how do I like to see the Azores is for sure surrounded by a healthy ocean and a thriving Azorean society that lives in balance with the sea that sustains them and from which they depend. So I see also the fishermen understanding well the reason why we take these measures to protect our ocean mainly, making sure that the future generations can keep fishing and understanding that livelihoods depend on the healthy sea. So additional, I can also see sustainable tourism sector for that promotes and respect the ocean. I can also, I believe in an ocean literate young children who have understand their relationship with the ocean, their responsibility in conservation, the ocean in general, and growing up knowing the importance of using the sea sustainably. So I see the Azores as an international example of a thriving sustainable maritime society, leading the way on a global level. So in fact, I think we have so many opportunities available right now to make this vision a reality.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. I would like to conclude today's event with this vision, thanking all of you for tuning in. Thank once more to Emmanuel, Catherine and Alexandra for your time today in sharing the story, the work and the vision of the Blue Azores program. I would like also to thank the All-Atlantic2021 Conference for inviting us to be part of this series of virtual events. It is always great to join the international community of stakeholders working toward ocean sustainability. For those of you who are interested, you can follow the Blue Azores Facebook page to stay up to date to the program. We have a lot of exciting work coming up and several opportunities for you to be involved. We hope we can see all of you soon. We will end this event by showing you a short film on the scientific expedition done in 2018 that explains why we are doing this program. Thank you very much to all of you for watching us. Goodbye.
São algumas das ilhas mais bonitas da Terra. Únicas, isoladas, frágeis. Os Açores. Uma força que atrai vida. Mas este paraíso está ameaçado.
Nós podemos perder estes valores naturais se não conseguirmos agir rapidamente.
Assim, uma equipa de cientistas junta esforços, 28 investigadores de 9 países, numa expedição sem precedentes, para explorar e documentar as riquezas marinhas dos Açores.
The Azores are most definitely at a defined tipping point.
Aquilo que nós observamos são impactos a uma escala de praticamente todos os locais onde nós mergulhamos.
Vamos tentar perceber um pouco mais sobre os grandes predadores pelágicos.
These remote camera systems give us a complete picture of the life in the waters without the presence of humans in them.
Vamos tentar, digamos, dedicar-nos só ao oceano aberto e também à sua ligação com o oceano profundo.
Um dos objetivos da expedição é fazer uma avaliação mais completa possível da biodiversidade destas zonas, para depois poder recomendar medidas de proteção e medidas de gestão sustentável.
It was fantastic. Nunca imaginaríamos que fôssemos encontrar nenhum campo hidrotermal.
And it's just like walking around in the Himalayas and someone saying, there's a new Mount Everest. Can you believe it? It was just unbelievably great.
A conservação e os usos humanos têm que andar de mãos dadas. Nós temos que conseguir alterar o paradigma onde, para termos desenvolvimento económico, temos que ter degradação ambiental. E foi isso que nós temos feito no oceano. Ora, nós não acreditamos que isso seja possível, não acreditamos que isso seja o futuro. E se perdermos o que aqui temos hoje, não vamos voltar a recuperar. E, portanto, há uma urgência de atuar, o momento de atuar é agora,